So this video we're about to get into is about the hidden cost of owning a home. If you are not a homeowner, let me put you on game. There is a lot of additional fees that go into owning a home, whether it be taxes, insurance, HOA, the money that you need to put aside for repairs. But let's take a look at this video. Let's find out what they're talking about and see if we agree or disagree, or if we can add any more context.
You can't say that.
Is he allowed to say
I'll say
that?
it louder.
Record high inflation may have people questioning whether homeownership is a good investment. Property taxes on the median single-family home have risen by more than 25% between 2019 and 2023. There's also been about a 20% increase in home insurance premiums between 2021 and 2023, according to insurance comparison company Insurify. Insurify estimates rates will rise another 6% by the end of 2024.
What many have failed to anticipate.
Real quick on that. So they are talking about the increasing cost of taxes and insurance like we just talked about. In my own experience, so I've had this home since 2019, and I recently had a increase in my, you get gradual increases over as you go, but I recently had an increase in my homeowner's insurance. So back in about March or April, I was looking at my payment for the year, and I was like, damn, this is more than I thought it would be. So I called up my bank that I had the insurance policy through, and I asked them, I said, hey, what contributed to this big jump? I haven't changed anything. And of course, they say increased costs means that we have to pass down those costs to the customer. If we have to pay more, you have to pay more. Okay, that makes sense. If we have to pay more to rebuild your home, that's what the home insurance is for, homeowner's insurance. In case something happens, fire, flood, natural disaster, something like that, they're going to make sure that the house is covered based on the amount of insurance that you have and based on the value of the home, things like that, right? So I asked them, I said, hey, how did my insurance go from here to here? And what they told me is that it jumped 33% because their costs jumped. The prices of rebuilding the home jumped. The home values changed. I said, my home value did change a little bit. I understand that. But it didn't go up 33%. So where do you get the number to go from I think I was at $1,400 up to $1,800 a year? $400 a year it's a bit of money when you're not expecting it, right? Not that I can't pay it or whatever, but a 33% jump from December to January is crazy. And to me, it's unjustifiable. So to USAA, I will be shopping for new insurance when this policy expires. But let's go back and see what else we have going on in this video.
Is the rise in both property taxes, and that's correlated to the rise in the value of their home, something that at some level helps them, as well as the increased cost of paying for that insurance.
82% of recent homebuyers said they regret their purchase, with 44% saying they've had to take on additional debt to maintain their standard of living.
Just because a person may own a valuable home doesn't necessarily mean that they're financially set. There are other costs associated to maintaining that property.
Unfortunately, a lot of people go into
100%.
buying a home and they don't understand that their monthly payment could change.
More than 1 in 4 homeowners with mortgages spent more than 30% of their income on housing costs, implying they're cost burdened. Here's why home payments are skyrocketing and how people shopping for a home can prepare.
Typically, they say you want to spend about 25% of your take-home pay on your housing, right? Why is that? Because you don't want to be what they call house poor. You get into a home, you say, hey, I can afford $1,500, right? I make $2,500. I can afford $1,500 payment, put a little gas in my car, or maybe I ride a bike and I just need to get down the road to my job, and I can pay my utilities and my phone and all of that stuff. But like we were saying, as those taxes and insurance and all of those expenses, as they start to increase, it's eating at more and more of your check. So you may have started at $1,500. 2 years later, 3 years later, you're in the same job. You haven't really gone to look for a promotion, and your payment has ballooned to $1,800, but you're still getting paid $2,500, right? So that's what they mean by being house poor. You want to make sure that you, to the best of your ability, keep your house payment as minimal as possible. Of course, you don't want to live somewhere that's crazy. You want to live somewhere where you're safe and the neighborhood's nice, maybe, but a lot of times that's going to cost more, right? And you have to work with what you got, but you want to keep it as minimal as possible. So as it rises, it's rising with your cost of living adjustments or raises, or as you transition jobs and get more money.
Homeownership is the primary path toward wealth creation in the United States.
Single-family homeowners accumulate an average of $225,000 in wealth from their homes during a 10-year period, according to a 2022 report from the National Association of Realtors.
That wealth sort of boils down to being primarily only on paper, and the time that you cash in that asset is when you sell the home.
There's a saying, house rich, cash poor, meaning people may own a valuable home, but that doesn't always translate into having cash on hand.
Home prices have been increasing over the last few years, and it's outpaced income for the average consumer. That's a problem because that creates an affordability crisis for the average person.
This can be a problem because as the value of a home rises, so does the cost to maintain it.
Yep.
Property taxes are one of the costs that can increase with the value of the home. Homeowners whose properties were reassessed between 2019 and 2023 amid skyrocketing valuations saw an increase in taxes. The median taxes for properties that were reassessed increased more than $600 for the year between 2019 and 2023.
That's steep.
Local
That's
municipalities
steep. A lot of people,
can
they
do
don't have
these.
that money.
Each local government has a different form of them in certain areas where they go, we're going to do an assessment because we need to build some new infrastructure for something. And this is how we're going to raise the funds for it. And so that's another important thing with your realtor is to talk about, has the town and county been talking about any sort of assessment like this coming up? Have you heard anything? If your realtor says, I don't know, then go get a new realtor right away because they should be following all this stuff because they are your advocate and they're your guide.
An expert had told me that property taxes rarely go down. They usually go up.
Of course.
Property tax increases in the past 4 years varied by state, with New Jersey, Connecticut.
For the most part, everything increases. I don't know over the course of my 31 years, too many things that have been, less expensive as time goes on than, things like lose value like cars and stuff. But I'm talking about like your house or if you have a subscription, things don't typically get cheaper as time goes on, right? Because inflation and the cost to produce that and the cost to supply it to people increases. So the price increases, right? Which is how people generally build wealth over time.
Connecticut and New York seeing the highest average property tax increases, while West Virginia, Alabama, Arkansas, and Mississippi saw the lowest.
It's always an option for homeowners to challenge essentially the tax assessment that they're getting relative to their own property. And I've been made aware of, for example, some attorneys that actually are in the business of doing that for homeowners. And I've known of some people who said, hey, what does it hurt to challenge that assessment? I would ask, well, first of all, is it worth your time and potentially your money to challenge that? But if you're really in a situation where you think it's unfair or inaccurate, then I think that's where the challenges really do more properly come into play.
Homeowners insurance is the other major expense that can fluctuate after a home purchase. The average annual homeowners insurance rates in the U.S. increased from $1,984 in 2021 to $2,377 in 2023. One estimate from Insurify predicts average annual rates will rise to roughly $2,500 by the end of 2024.
In the last couple of years, we've seen this spike, this huge increase, and it is because we are having more natural disasters in places. We're having more wildfires, we're having more flooding, we're having more mass destruction events, and those.
What I'll tell you is we're not having any of those things in the DMV, right? We're not having floods, we're not having wildfires, but our stuff is absolutely going up at a considerable rate, just like all of these other places. So it's not just the places where they're listing, like, let's say California, Texas. I think they have flooding down in Florida. It's not just those places that are getting significant bumps in their homeowners insurance. It's places that in the Northeast as well, where we're not experiencing any of those natural disasters. Of course, it's all just a money grab. Everything is about money. And I get it, right? They supply a service. We subscribe to it. It's a give and a take. But businesses, they got to get those profits, man. So if they see it happen in one place, they will say, hey, let's try doing it here. Let's see what happens. And because you have to have homeowners insurance, you're not going to, well, if you have a loan on your house, you have to have homeowners insurance. I don't know if your house is paid off if you still have to have it. But if you have a loan, you have to have homeowners insurance. So they're not getting the pushback. They're like, fuck it. Why not increase it? Let's see what happens.
Those have to be recovered by insurance companies somehow.
With the increase of hazardous weather, lots of major insurers are leaving areas, and it's not limited to California and Florida anymore. Like, we're seeing that in Colorado and like other areas where wildfires, tornadoes are common.
Those states are seeing the biggest spike in insurance rates, with Florida leading the pack. The average annual rate for insurance in Florida was nearly $11,000 in 2023, which is more than $8,600 than the U.S. average. Florida cities make up 6 of the top 10 most expensive to insure in the country.
There are some states that actually have legislation in place
about my
that insurance companies can't raise your premiums more than a certain percentage each year.
Insurance is a highly regulated and complex market, but going without it is not an option for many homeowners.
Homeowners insurance is a necessity for people, particularly those who have a mortgage, because if anything happens to the house, we need to be able to recover the cost of the damage to the home, particularly if it is destroyed. You need to either do the repair or the replacement of that home.
We know that a lot of people push the idea of home ownership, and they say that most people that are financially, or most people have their assets tied into their home, right? And home ownership can be a good thing, but it's expensive. And especially if you go into it not knowing that all of these expenses that you can incur all of these expenses, right? You think, oh, I just paid my mortgage and that's it. No, you have homeowners insurance, you have taxes, you might have an HOA, which are very common. And a lot of times they can raise the fees based on them trying to get amenities or them saying that they need to prepare for projects and things like that. And if you're not aware of these expenses, you go into it thinking, oh, I have enough, just to find out you have less than you thought you would, because you still have to pay utilities, you still have to pay for like she said, the trash removal and things like that. And sometimes those are rolled into the HOA, but it's a lot more expensive and it's a lot more work than people realize, right? Sometimes you have to save money for repairs, like a roof needs to be repaired every 20 years. If you have a fence, that may need to be repaired. If you have a decks may need to be repainted and stained and things like that. So it's not just you set it and forget it, right? I wish it was. It'd be a lot less expensive and a lot less and a lot easier to maintain. But that's just not the world we live in, right? That's not the way that the market is, and that's not the way that home ownership is. But hopefully this was a little informational. I know they had the video from CNBC, and I gave a little bit of my personal experience with the house that I've been in for the past 5 years. And for myself, I know some things to look into when me and my family do go forward. And hopefully you do the same. So until next time, peace.